have a lot of people joining. Already have 52 participants, yeah, and many more people are joining. I'm very happy to see the number already. So we have, okay, I'm your host for today, Dr. Pranjana Kalita Nath from ELTAI Guwahati chapter. It's my pleasure to have you all here with us today. Before the research person shares his expertise on doing literature review, let me share some general instructions for you before we begin. While listening to the presentation, if you can post your questions in the chat box, and our moderator will pick up the questions from the chat box so that our resource person can respond to them. And do fill in the feedback form after attending the webinar. Certificates will be issued only to school undergraduate and postgraduate students, ELTAI members, and foreign nationals. But do not forget to fill in the feedback form to get the certificates. Yes, we can. Yeah, we have been, I'm sure many more people will join. Yeah. So before we begin, it'll be good if we can know a bit about you. So can you please share, I mean, in the chat box, you can type where you are from. And since this webinar is about doing literature review in qualitative research, we'd like to know about your research interests. So could you please type in the chat box your research interest, the areas of interest that you have in terms of research? Yes, I can see some. So I'm looking at the chat box to see. Yes, I can see Dr. Rajesh K has responded. It's anthropocentric studies. Wonderful. And yeah, so yeah, we can see. Rativa Makiza. So she is a research scholar, probably yet to decide on her area of interest. ELT is the area of interest for Joypal M. Okay. So would you also like to mention where you are from, besides mentioning, mentioning your area of interest? You see many people with ELT as the area of interest. Okay. Rahul Kale from Pune. So he is interested in English language teaching through literature. Wonderful. And then Monica Malhotra from Jammu, she's interested in Dr. Monica Malhotra. She's interested in linguistics. Pratika Makhiza has been doing PhD on Bhagavad Gita. That's interesting, okay? Stella Martina, she's interested in literature. A. Venkataramanama, okay. So there are so many, the responses are pouring in, yeah, it's wonderful. So children's literature, someone has written the area of interest in children's literature, okay. Ved Prakash Upadhyay is interested in Eastern philosophy. Okay, so we can see diverse areas of interest here. We have a diverse audience here with interest in different areas. It's wonderful to see Dr. Sumana Bandyopadhyay from NS Kolkata. So she's interested in qualitative research for empirical study in ELT. So I'm sure this webinar will be very much relevant. Niroj Dahal, so he is in Kathmandu University, yeah. So he's from Kathmandu. And yeah, narrative inquiry, case study, content analysis, these are a few of his research interests. Okay, so there's someone from Assam, Abdul Awaz, my state as well. Srimanandi from Institute of Engineering. Meenakshi from Hyderabad, her interest is in contemporary feminism. Taranraj Bhatta, so she is interested in review of literature, okay. So yes, we can see people from corners of the country. Participants are from different corners of the country. Rameshwari Chanu, so from University of Hyderabad, and she's interested in history of English language education, or ELT. Okay. So Vinod Neupane from Nepal. Yeah. Okay. So we have people joining from Nepal, Kathmandu. So joining from Bhubaneswar, Anamika, who has been doing research in English language learning through multi-literacies framework. Interesting. Mohit Kumar Tiwari is interested in teaching linguistics from, okay. And yeah, okay. So someone has raised a hand, Ranjit Ingle. Do you have any question at this moment, Ranjit Ingle? Okay. So yeah, Vinod Neupane is a PhD in English education at TU. Okay. PS Tewar, Manipur. Okay, there's someone joining from Manipur. Interested in literature. Okay. Chatnat. Okay. Well, is interested in well-being of ELT teachers. That's interesting. Okay, emotional side of the teachers. Post qualitative inquiry, University Nepal. Okay. And then, so there are so many people joining. Wonderful. Okay. Okay. So yeah. So I've been admitting people as well. So Kamendra Chetri, again from Nepal. Okay. So Somita Sarkar from Gujarat University. She's interested in ELT and second language acquisition. Professor John Lawrence from Tamil Nadu has also joined. Okay. Hello, sir. Okay. So yeah, it's wonderful to see so many people joining with interest in different areas, different diverse areas actually. And I'm sure this webinar about doing literature review or framing literature review in qualitative research is going to be quite helpful for the audience, for all of you. Before we once again, let me share the general instructions for everyone. We can, while listening to the presentation, you can post your questions in the chat box, and our moderator will pick up the questions from the chat box so that our resource person can respond to them. And do not forget to fill up the feedback form after attending the webinar to get the certificates. Certificates will be issued only to school, undergraduate and postgraduate students, ELTAI members, and foreign nationals. Before we delve into today's exciting topic, let's take a moment to introduce you to the dynamic world of ELTAI. If you are new to our community or just need a refresher, we have a brief video highlighting some of the fantastic activities and initiatives that ELTAI is involved in. I request you to play the video. That's really inspiring and wonderful. ELTAI's commitment to empowering English language educators across India is truly commendable. We hope you will consider becoming a part of this dynamic association if you haven't already. Now, let me introduce our esteemed moderator who will be moderating this webinar and offer her expert opinion at the end of this session. Dr. Shaila Mahan, a professor of English, has exemplified all through her academic career a rare dedication and enthusiasm in various roles, including her roles as a teacher, teacher educator, administrator, and examiner. She recently retired as a joint director from the Commissionerate of College Education in Jaipur. Her expertise in English language teaching and Indian writings in English is well founded through her multiple publications and lectures. A gold medalist in post-graduation from the University of Rajasthan, Professor Mahan was selected by the US State Department for a much admired faculty development program at Georgetown University in Washington in 2010. Besides 2 books, Dr. Mahan has published nearly 2 dozen research articles in leading journals and edited volumes. Dr. Mahan has been involved in extensive international engagements, having presented at numerous prestigious conferences such as TESOL Convention in 2015 in Toronto and the IATFL conference in Liverpool in 2019. She maintains close ties with English language initiatives by the British Council and by the Regional English Language Office of the US Embassy in New Delhi. She has served as a BEC and IELTS examiner for the British Council for over a decade. In Rajasthan, Dr. Mahan holds the position of president in ELTAI and serves as the editor-in-chief of the ELTAI Literature Journal, Journal of Teaching and Research in English Literature. She has also contributed significantly as a member of the editorial board of Journal of English Language Teaching for several years. Without further ado, let me hand over the session to our moderator for today. Over to you, Professor Mahan.
Ma'am, you were muted, ma'am.
Yes. Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Pranjana, for your kind words. Namaskar, and a warm welcome to all of you. It's extremely delightful to welcome all of you to this webinar, which is a special initiative of ELTAI India to promote high-quality research in English language and literature. As you have just witnessed in the PowerPoint presentation, this effort is a part of an ambitious series of webinars which ELTAI has conducted over the past few years. To be exact, this is the 124th session of the webinar series, conceived and executed by ELTAI, which has attracted hundreds and thousands of professionals from a variety of streams who have actively participated in our lively web seminars. Today's webinar revolves around a theme that's of great relevance and significance for all of us, whether we are teachers, trainers, academicians, or for that matter, pure researchers. As you would agree, research is the cornerstone of higher academics, and it is crucial for the growth and development of knowledge across all disciplines. For all of us who have done, a bit of research in our lives, we know the endeavor of reviewing the existing literature is critical to the success of any and every research project. Whether one is writing a doctoral dissertation or, for that matter, attempting any kind of research work. At the start of this session, let's acknowledge a common sentiment. Literature reviews are not always the most exciting part of research process. In fact, at times, they can be quite tedious and confusing. During the course of our, you know, research, we have, during the course of our any research projects, many of us have faced questions like, why do we need a literature review? What exactly should it include? How much information is too much? And what should be excluded? These questions can make the process seem rather daunting and frankly, a bit frustrating at times. Today's session will hopefully provide some answers to such queries as it needs to demystify the literature review process. We will address why literature reviews are essential, what they should contain, what to exclude, and how to construct a review of literature effectively and successfully. I'm confident that the session today will provide us with refreshing insights on this endeavor and help us locate the right journals. It will give us, practical tips that will help us to find out the right journals, select appropriate keywords, and utilize various tools and online resources that are available for all of us, so that these can help us streamline our literature review process. If you seek clarity and practical tips on these aspects, you are likely to greatly benefit from today's session. As we begin this enlightening journey together, let me briefly introduce our guest speaker, who will share his wealth of knowledge about this tough process today. I have the proud privilege of introducing Dr. Bharat Neupane, Assistant Professor working at the Department of Language Education at the Kathmandu University. He is an active member of ELTAI, the Nepal English Language Teachers Association, and is also one of the editors of the prestigious journal taken out by ELTAI. He has published several articles in national and international journals and presented in numerous academic events like workshops, seminars, conferences. His areas of interest include teacher development, qualitative research, language policy, and integration of AI tools in qualitative research. Dr. Neupane mainly teaches courses related to theories and practice in education, applied linguistics, research methodology, and critical discourse analysis. He has supervised many master's and MPhil dissertations. He's a dedicated teacher and a committed researcher. He's fond of networking through social media, mainly Facebook and ResearchGate. And he is collaborating on many research projects. As we look for answers and some relief from the stress and tension of literature reviews, I'm sure Dr. Neupane will provide us with lots of thoughtful suggestions and insights, and of course, practical tips to construct, to draft, to write a literature for all our qualitative, research work that we carry out. May I now request our main speaker of the day to please begin his address that all of us are just looking forward to. Over to you, Dr. Neupane.
Bharat sir, you need to unmute yourself.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Shaila, for your kind introduction. I would like to thank ELTAI India for inviting me as the speaker in today's session. Today, I'm going to speak on framing literature review and qualitative research. Distinguished professors and all the participants, I am Bharat Prasad Neupane from Kathmandu University, Nepal. And this is the title of my presentation. All of you are distinguished, and eminent professors and researchers present here today. And you have idea about how to do literature review. And I can also see some of the novice researchers. So in today's session, I'm going to briefly highlight the literature review, what is its characteristics, what are different styles of literature review that range from narrative, thematic, and systematic, importance of literature review, process of conducting literature review, so how to organize and developing theoretical and conceptual framework, and why literature review is important in developing these frameworks, and some AI tools that are helpful for conducting literature review. Literature review is a comprehensive survey of the works published in a particular field. Whenever you want to do research in any area, you would like to have in-depth understanding of that area. You would like to convince your reader that you have command over that particular field. For that, you need to do literature review. Not only that, to find the gap in literature also, we need to do literature review. So in literature review, we do in-depth critical study of literature published in the field. So it's a systematic examination of existing research on the research topic. And it is a critical exploration of the existing research. So the purpose of literature review is to demonstrate our familiarity with the topic, problem, and its scholarly context, and to establish the importance of the topic. So why it is important, why there is need to study in this specific area. To justify that, we do literature review. Not only that, as we conduct research, we need theoretical and conceptual frameworks. And for that also, we can study past literature. We can see what are the different theories used in our area of research. We can make list of different theories, and we can find one. We can decide which theory is relevant to our study. Or by bringing different theoretical categories, we can make another conceptual framework or theoretical framework by combining different concepts. Not only that, to choose a methodology also, this literature review is very, very essential. And to establish a gap or to problematize the issue also, we need to do study past literature. So literature review is very, very important, and it is essential in almost every section of or every step of our research. That ranges from background of the study to problematizing the issue, establishing the rationale or the need of the research in the area, or to find out the appropriate methodology for our research, to data analysis and interpretation. In every part, literature review is essential, because even in discussion part, we try to compare and contrast our findings, or we try to substantiate our themes by bringing reference to past literature and theories. So it is essential to understand the importance of literature review in every section of our dissertation or the article. A good literature review should be comprehensive. Comprehensive means it covers various sources, including journal articles, books, and conference papers. And when we select literature, so those literature should be very, very recent. For instance, if you are doing research on, let's say, teacher professional identity, what are the current debates on teacher professional identity? What are the developments in the area? We should be able to identify or understand the current development, right? And it should be directly related to our thesis or title or research question. In that sense, also, it should be very, very relevant and recent. And when you read these literature that are published in past, then we need to critically evaluate those literature. So what are the strengths of those research and what are the weaknesses? We need to find out these strengths and weaknesses rather than merely summarizing this past literature when we include those in our research. And so selecting the recent literature is very, very essential. For instance, if you are doing research on integrating AI in English language teaching and learning, let's say, so AI is the recent phenomenon, or you are talking about ICT. So there has been a lot of changes, a lot of development regarding the integration of ICT in English language teaching, right? And if you include very old literature, that may not be relevant to your study. So in case of this empirical research, we should be able to find very recent article, not older than 5 to 7 years. But in case of theories, sometimes theories can be timeless. So in that case, we can also include old theories and theoretical and conceptual frameworks. Okay. So and next thing is, when we read the literature, we are not just supposed to summarize. Rather, we need to synthesize the results and present the thematic synthesis of it. And normally, when we read literature, we try to focus on patterns, themes, contradictions, gaps, and inconsistencies evident in our literature. So when you do literature review, we should also be mindful about the research paradigms, the paradigms that we are using to do our research. Or when you do write dissertations, we do research remaining under different paradigms that range from positivism to post-positivism to interpretivism, criticalism, and postmodern paradigms. Or we might remain under multi-paradigmatic framework and conduct research. So normally in qualitative research, this interpretive, critical, and postmodern paradigms or multi-paradigmatic framework is pertinent. And in that case, so when you do literature review, when you are doing a research remaining under interpretive paradigm, probably. So what does that finding of the literature review mean to you? Okay, so you can have your subjective interpretation of those findings, and also you can also bring your personal experiences. You can embed your subjective experiences while writing these narrative reviews. And if you are working remaining under critical paradigm, or not, even though you are not remaining under critical paradigm and doing research, in that case, you can bring the issues of power, how the article maintains or challenges the existing power structures. You can bring those issues in your literature review. But while conducting systematic literature review, even though you lack such subjectivity, despite being qualitative research, but you can always interpret how those literature relate to your research. You can always have that kind of sharing in your literature review. So let me give you one example from my PhD experience. My PhD thesis was titled Trajectory of Identity Negotiation of English Language Teachers, or Narrative Inquiry. That was the title, right? And while doing literature review, I tried to find out the major perspectives and themes relating to teacher identity. And also I tried to see major arguments in that area. And so I tried to do thematic, theoretical, and empirical review in my literature review section, right? And so key findings of my literature review was that so identity was mainly looked from psychological, sociocultural, and post-structural perspectives, right? But recently there was a trend of looking at identity from sociocultural lens and post-structural lens. Post-structural perspective was emerging in the area of teacher professional identity research. So in my research, I try to look at identity through sociocultural and post-structural lens. So to find out this perspective and current development also, I had to do literature review. By doing in-depth study of past literature, I understood what were the different lens or the perspectives developed in teacher professional identity research. Apart from that, I also understood that imagination, sociocultural context, agency, and investing, beliefs, values, and emotions were some of the key areas of teacher professional identity, or these are the aspects that influences the identity construction of English language teachers. Also, I found that so mainly teacher identity research were focused on how training programs and these different pre-service teacher education programs influences the identity construction of English language teachers. But imagination, sociocultural context, agency, investing, these were the emerging themes. There were few studies conducted, so focusing on these aspects. But in the context of Nepal, there was paucity of research in that area. So this is how I tried to find out the gap in the area I was researching by doing literature review. So literature review is very, very essential to look at the major perspectives developed in the area of research, to find out the thematic areas, to develop comprehensive understanding of the issue that we are researching. So these are the 5 key steps of doing literature review. So when you do literature review, we start with searching for relevant literature. We select and evaluate sources, identify themes, debates, and gaps, outline the structure of our review, and write our literature review. So this is the general step that we follow while doing literature review. So let's begin with the first step. Step 1, search for relevant literature. So before we begin searching, so we need to clearly define our topic, the area. We need to specify our area. Then only we can start doing literature review. Or we search literature review or our literature relating to our title, problems, or our research question. For example, in my PhD, the title was Trajectory of Identity Negotiation of English Language Teachers. And the research questions were based on these key thematic areas: beliefs, values, and emotions, imagine identity and investing, sociocultural environment and agency. So these thematic areas help me to locate literature. So I had to explore literature that were relevant to these key themes, okay, or my research questions guided my literature search. If I start searching anything and everything or anything available on internet in the area, then there would be a lot of research studies, a lot of articles, and we will be lost in the piles of different research articles. So we should be very, very mindful of selecting what is relevant, what is related to our research questions, which are current. So we should think about this, and we should decide what to include and what not to include, okay, and what to read and what not to read. So once we decide the problem, issue, and the research question, then we should make the list of keywords. And our thematic categories can help us to make the list of keywords, right? So what are the key concepts and variables we are interested in? So we should make list of those key terms and variables, right? And then we should start searching. So in my case, so my research was related to teacher professional identity, right? And some of the key themes were, imagine identity, investing, sociocultural environment. So these were some of the key terms that I used in my research. Teacher identity, English language teacher identity, because I was exploring the identity trajectory of identity negotiation of English language teachers. So English language teacher identity was another key term. Discourse, narrative inquiry, because I used narrative inquiry as a research method. So that was another key term. Imagine identity, investing, and many others. So, but when you start, searching the literature, then new keywords will emerge. So during the process of research, you can also decide other keywords that are relevant to your research. And whenever you do literature review, so you should be very, very careful of selecting the databases. For instance, if you are researching on, let's say, or doing research in qualitative tradition or in educational context, probably in educational context, this ERIC can be very, very relevant to you, or Scopus can be relevant to you. But for research on humanistic tradition, maybe Zesta can be more relevant, right? But if you search articles from Google Scholar, so any kind of articles are available in Google Scholar. So I don't think the resources, downloaded from Google Scholar, all the resources may not be that much credible. So before we start literature search, we need to decide whether the databases that I'm using are credible or not. So I, encourage you to download articles from Scopus and Web of Science. These are very, very authentic databases. Or those who are doing research in humanistic tradition, maybe just EBSCOhost and Project Muse are more relevant. Or even though you are doing research in education sector, these you find article in these databases also, but Eric and Web of Science are more important for you, right? Then, so what is the area of your research? So you need to decide, so which journals are relevant to you. So my area was teacher professional identity. I was exploring the identity of English language teachers, trajectory of identity negotiation of English language teachers, and it was educational research. That's why, so during the literature search, I came across one journal titled Journal of Language, Identity and Education. And this was best fit for my research, right? So I was heavily dependent on this journal. And as I was, doing literature in the, area of ELT, teacher, English language teacher, professional development and identity construction, then TESOL was another very, very relevant journal for me, authentic journal for me. So I looked at TESOL articles, Journal of Language Identity and Education, and these two, journals, Qualitative Inquiry and TQR, the Qualitative Report. These are also very, very authentic journals. To have idea about qualitative research, Qualitative Inquiry is one of the most authentic journal, and TQR is another. Okay, in TQR you find articles written using the qualitative approach. I have also recently published, submitted, and my paper is accepted in TQR. It's a Q1 journal published by Nova Southeastern University, United States. You can see my paper here, Sociocultural Environment and Agency in Identity Construction of English Language Teachers. And this is also, qualitative article. So I have submitted over here. It's a very authentic and very credible journal. So you can decide which journals are relevant to your research, and you can download articles from those credible and relevant journals to your research. Now, step 2 of your literature review is evaluate and select resources. So from what kind of journals are you downloading resources? Who is the author? Is he the authority in that field? So you need to think about these issues, right? So before you include any article for your literature review, you need to evaluate the resources, right? And you need to evaluate in terms of their credibility and in terms of their relevance to your research question, whether they are directly related to your research question or title or not, because you cannot read everything, right? So you should be very, very focused in selecting your research articles that you want to include in your research. And for that, so some of these questions can be, very, very relevant to you. Please ask these questions to yourself before you include any research article. So ask yourself, who is the author? Is he an expert in the field you are researching? What question or problem is the author addressing? Is he focusing on the similar kind of problem that you are addressing? What are the key concepts, or how are they relevant to you? If they are not relevant to you, you don't need to read. Okay. What are the key theories, models, and methods used? What are the strengths and weaknesses of the research? So please make sure you read any landmark studies and major theories in your field. So you need to read almost all the articles which are published in reputed and very credible sources, and which are written by the authority in your field. For instance, I was doing, research in the area of teacher professional identity, and some of the prominent writers in my area were Gary Barkhusin, or Norton from Columbia University, and there were many other. Okay, so I had to read articles published by these people. Golombek from UK. So I had to read. So you need to find out who are the pioneers of your area, and you need to read the articles published by these people. Once you decide the sources, articles, then you need to start reading, right? When you read, you need to take note of the content so that you want to incorporate in your literature review. Keep track of your sources with citations to avoid plagiarism. So if you do not take note of the content that you have, or the articles you have read, then once you keep reading and you start forgetting the articles that you have read before. So it's very, very essential to keep track of what you have read and what you found over there. And you also need to, make list of those, citations and references. And the best way is to do annotated bibliography. You can also make one table where you can, include the title of the article and then author and year of publication, journal, and then methodology. You make one section column for methodology, and then another column for major findings of categories, and then your personal remarks. Okay. So if you list, if you put ideas in that table when you read the articles, then you can use those contents later on while developing your literature review section. Or so you can also make annotated bibliography. So this kind of process will help you to remember what you have read, and it will save your time later. And the third step in your literature review is to identify themes, debates, and gaps. So what are the major themes developed in your area? Okay, because you can organize your argument or literature reviews argument based on the themes or the trends or patterns that developed out of the literature review. Okay, so you need to see what are the trends developed, what are the patterns developed in your literature review, right? So what are the certain approaches which become more or less popular over the time? For instance, in my research on teacher professional identity, what I found is this psychological perspective to look at teacher professional identity was becoming less popular in due course of time. And people were focusing or looking at identity through sociocultural lens, and post-structural lens was emerging. That was the pattern that I saw, or that was the trend that I saw after doing literature review. And I decided that I would be looking at, because I found sociocultural and post-structural lens more appropriate to look at identity, right? And what are the themes, major themes that develop? Okay, so what questions or concepts recur across the literature? What are the major debates, conflicts, and contradictions? Where do sources agree or disagree? You need to find those debates and conflicts in your literature review. What are the pivotal publications? Are there any influential theories or studies that change the direction of the field? So you need to find those, changes occurring in due course of time. What are the gaps? What is missing from the literature? Are there weaknesses that need to be addressed? Because one of the major concern for doing literature review is also to find the gap, knowledge gap in the literature, because we want to find out the gap and try to fulfill the gaps through our research. So we should also try to locate the gaps in the literature. So this step, this process will help us to structure our literature review. So we should be very, very careful while doing literature review, and we need to focus on these trends, patterns, themes, debates, conflicts, contradictions while doing literature review. So in my research, as I mentioned before, so my area was teacher professional identity, and I saw three major perspectives to look at identity. And I also found that narrative inquiry was heavily used to explore teacher professional identity. So I decided that narrative inquiry can be the relevant methodology for my research. So in order to decide your methodology also, doing extensive literature review is very, very essential. So, and I also found that most of the researches on teacher professional identity were focused on this, how this training and teacher education programs influences the identity of English language teachers. And the emerging themes or emerging thematic categories that influence identity were imagine identity, investing, environment, and agency. These were the emerging concepts. How teachers imagine themselves to be a certain kind of person in future, and how they invest on their imagined identity and become the kind of person they want to become in future. Or what are the different micro, meso, and macro environmental factors that influences the identity construction of teachers, and how teachers can also influence these different contexts, or how in the interplay between environment and agency teachers grow. These were some of the emerging themes even though there were a few studies on this area in international context, but there was paucity of research in this area in the context of Nepal. So I wanted to fulfill the gap in this area. So I chose teacher trajectory of identity negotiation of English language teacher as my area of study, because I wanted to contribute to this knowledge gap. Okay. So the last step that you follow in your literature review is outline your literature reviews structure. So in your outline, so structure is, so the way you write normal, essays, there is introduction, body, and conclusion. And even in literature review, you have these three, sections in your literature review. But in terms of style or style of presenting your literature review, you can do chronological or narrative literature review, or thematic or systematic review. You can do thematic synthesis, or you can develop a kind of themes, or certain themes emerge, certain themes develop when you read different articles published in your area. And you can do thematic synthesis and present your ideas thematically under different subheadings, or you can also chronologically present ideas, and you can show different changes and developments in your area. So you can have narrative presentation of the literature. But nowadays, people or researchers are preferring more on thematic synthesis instead of this chronological or narrative presentation of the literature review. Or even this systematic review is being very, very popular. Okay, I'm going to talk about this, what is thematic, systematic, and narrative review later. So in chronological and narrative review, so we try to trace the development of the topic over time, how this concept evolved, how this concept developed, and what are the changes occurring in this area. So we try to trace the development in the area over time, okay? And we become very, very careful not just to list and summarize the articles in order. Rather, we try to analyze and present patterns, turning points, and key debates that have evolved over time. But while we present narratively, or we present chronologically in order, by focusing on certain patterns, changes, or turning points, or key debates evolved in due course of time. Okay, and during that process, we also give our interpretation and explanation, and we express what does that pattern or turning point mean to our research. So in that sense, we at that time we can also bring our subjective interpretations over there in narrative review. In thematic review, we organize literature in terms of recurring themes into different subsections. For instance, while developing these different themes, we can be guided by different thematic categories that are there in our research question. Okay, our research question can also guide our organization of these different thematic subheadings. Or while reading literature, also different themes automatically emerge. Okay, so these research question can help us in developing different subheadings in doing literature review. Okay, and next, systematic literature review. Systematic literature review is almost similar to a thematic synthesis, but it is different in the sense that we make the whole process of doing literature review explicit in our literature review section. We clearly mention the method that we have used while doing literature review in systematic review. So it makes the whole review process explicit. So we do that in order to minimize the bias and to establish rigor in our literature review. Okay, so we clearly mention what were some of the key questions that guided our literature review, what keywords were used to locate and search different articles, what were the inclusion and exclusion criteria for our literature review, so how we have extracted the data, and how we have analyzed those data, and how we have done thematic synthesis. Whole process should be mentioned in our method section of our literature review. Okay, so as we made whole process explicit, it is called systematic review. But that doesn't mean that these thematic and narrative review are not systematic. They are also systematic, but so the systematic review is more rigorous, and we make whole methodology explicit in the review section. And the step 5 of our literature review is write our literature review. Okay, so like any other academic text, your literature review should have an introduction, a main body, and a conclusion, as I mentioned before. Okay, so we need to be very, very careful of including certain ideas or the ideas in different sections in terms of its writing process. For instance, in our introduction section, we should clearly establish the focus and purpose of the literature review, right? So what we are going to say in this particular section, what is the purpose of this section, that should be clearly mentioned early in the introduction section. Okay, then if we are doing literature review in a dissertation, normally we have extensive review in dissertation. In articles, we can just include the review section in introduction itself. But in literature review, there is big section of literature review. That's why, so there, when you write literature review, then we need to reiterate our central problem or the research question, okay, and give a brief summary of the scholarly context as well. So we can also emphasize the timeliness of the topic. For instance, we can express like, my many recent studies have focused on the problem of this. This is how we can express the timeliness. And we can also highlight the gap in literature. We should give hint of the gap that we are going to establish early on in introduction section, because this guides the readers what we are going to express in the remaining part of the literature review. So it's a kind of signposting. We should not, in scientific writing, we should not misguide our readers. It's not like writing a mystery novel, right? So we should clearly mention what we are going to do in the remaining part of the literature review. So in body part, we can divide our body part into different subsections based on the different thematic heading themes that we have developed. In terms of theme or time or trend, we can organize our body part. Okay, if you are doing narrative review, probably time or the chronological development or the trend can be important. But if it is thematic synthesis or the systematic review, then in that case we can do thematic synthesis and we can have thematic subheadings in our body part. Okay, so as we write these body part of our literature review, we should follow these tips can be helpful for us. So we should summarize and synthesize the ideas. Okay, so we need to give an overview of the main points of its sources and combine them into a coherent whole. So we should analyze and interpret the ideas, so while presenting them into different subheadings, instead of just paraphrasing or just mentioning the ideas from different articles. So we can also add our own interpretations wherever possible. Okay, so discussing the significance of findings in relation to our literature as a whole is very, very essential. And we can also critically evaluate these articles, and we can also talk about the relevance of these different themes. We should also highlight the strengths and weaknesses of our resources. And so we need to present these into well-structured paragraphs, and in our different paragraphs in the body part. So we should use different transition words, topic sentences, to draw connections, comparison, and contrast. And we also should keep using signposts not to misguide our readers, or to give clear direction of what we are doing in literature review. We need to use signpost. Signpost means what we are going to express or write in the coming sections. Okay, that's how we need to do literature review part. So in conclusion part, we summarize the key findings of our literature and emphasize their significance. What do they mean to us, to our research? Okay, We should also state how our research addresses gaps and contributes new knowledge. And we should discuss how we have drawn on existing theories and methods to build a framework for our research. So we do literature review not only to establish gap or to express our strength in our area, to express command over our subject area or area of the research, rather to develop our theoretical and conceptual framework as well. For instance, when you do empirical articles in your area, then you will see different theories used to do research. And while reading those empirical articles, we can make list of different theories used over there, right? And then we can choose one most prominent or most relevant theory to our research, or we can combine ideas from different theories and we can make our conceptual frameworks. Okay, we can combine ideas from various theories, models, and we can develop or we can borrow key concepts from these different theories and we can make our conceptual and theoretical framework. Okay, so you might argue for the relevance of a specific theoretical approach or combine various theoretical concepts to create framework for your research by doing literature review. So these are some of the books that I read in order to develop these slides. Writing literature review, the literature review step-by-step guide for students by D.N. Ridley, doing a literature review and doing your literature review, traditional and systematic review. These are some of the important books that I included while preparing for this presentation. And these are some of the AI tools that are relevant to literature review. That include ChatGPT, Elicit, Research Rabbit, Chat PDF, Connected Papers, and Perplexity AI. So I find this Research Rabbit and Connected Papers very, very important. So when we search relevant articles, for instance, we can select one very, very important article and we try to search other articles related to this area, or we can just put keywords and then search, and it will show what are the possible articles that are relevant to our study. It's very quick and very easy for us to locate different articles in our area, right? And Elicit can help us to read different articles. We can extract ideas from methodology, discussion part, or conclusion, and anywhere. We can just chat with or we can request Elicit to draw ideas from different sections of the articles. Or sometimes you might face difficulty in understanding the articles because of the complexity of the language, or the concepts are so complex, and it's very tough to you to understand those concepts. In that case, you can just upload the article PDF in Chat PDF, and you can start having conversation with the Chat PDF. You can ask questions and it will answer by reading the PDF document that you have uploaded. So that can also help you to have clear idea of those articles. Also, sometimes it can help you to draw ideas from these articles. Okay, so ChatGPT can help you to outline your literature review, and it can also help you to locate different articles published in your area. And another very important tool that I use is Perplexity AI. Okay, it's free and it's more authentic than ChatGPT in the sense that when you ask something, it will answer you. It can list you the articles, and when it gives you some ideas or it draws any outline for your article or for your literature review, then it gives you clearly the idea of which sources were used in order to, let's say, develop those outlines or develop those contents. So I'm not highlighting, or I'm not focusing on using these tools to write literature review. So we need to be very, very careful about ethical issues that may arise while using these different sites. So in the places where we are claiming our knowledge, in that case we should not use these kind of AI tools, but to have some ideas, to draw some informations, or to make list of articles, we can always use these AI tools. So I suggest you to be very, very careful about the ethical issues that may arise while using these tools. But these tools are very, very helpful for us to do literature review. So we can try these tools. These are some of the references, key references that I have used in my literature review slides. Thank you so much. I think I'm a bit early than the given time.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Neupane, for your comprehensive, perceptive, and thought-provoking session. I'm sure the participants have greatly benefited from the insights and the practical examples provided by you, especially the practical examples that you have given from your own research experience. And since you're saying that you have finished well ahead of time, I think we will get, let's look at the positives. We'll get probably more time for the questions and answers session. So we've had, throughout your session, we've been receiving comments, observations, and feedback for your sessions, and participants, the attendees have been finding your session quite informative. In fact, many of them have put this question whether they'll be getting hold of this PPT, whether they will have access to your PowerPoint presentation, which they feel would be useful for them after the
I will
session.
send, yeah, I will send.
So one was this, and there were 2 or 3 questions related to difference between, literature review and writing a book review. Although it doesn't, I think, have somehow related to your topic or your theme. So we just leave it to you whether you would like to answer that query.
Yeah, so normally when we talk about literature review in research, we focus on research question and the topic, and we try to search literature that is directly relevant to your research question. And we do literature review to have comprehensive understanding of our issue, to express or to establish our command over the area where we are researching, right? And to establish gap or to develop conceptual and theoretical framework to find the appropriate methodology for our research. But book review is quite different. You read a book written in any area, and you try to express your understanding and you express your critical thoughts on that particular book. Okay, you critique that, you express the strengths and some of the weaknesses of that particular book, and you try to publish that. Okay, so this book review and doing literature review for research is entirely different. Okay, thank you. I hope your question is answered.
Yeah. And one participant wants a list of, for women studies. They want a list of sites or list of, I think, sources for women studies.
Actually,
journals, journals for
Yeah.
women-related studies. Shubhra Tiwari.
So is she making the list of those journals, or she wants me to share some of
Probably
the
she wants
journals?
it from you.
Oh, okay, so it is very, very difficult to share you the list of journals relating to women's studies. But if you give me time, you can take my email address, and later on I can definitely give you some of the journals and databases from where you can get articles relating to women's studies. But if you would like to know about some of the theories, then as I was doing research on gender in my MPhil, then I can give you some of the names who work in the area of these, gender studies, like Simon de Beauvoir. The Second Sex can be a very, a pertinent book for you. And apart from that, Judith Butler. You can search Judith Butler. She has written different books, like Gender Trouble is very popular book, which can be relevant to you. Apart from that, there are 2 important articles that you need to read: Doing Gender and Undoing Gender. So in these 2 articles, the Doing Gender basically focuses on how gender is constructed. Okay, so, and in Undoing Gender, how we can undo this gender construction process. Okay, so these 2 articles can be very, very relevant to you. Thank you.
Okay. There's a query by Seema Srivastav. So she wants to know, with AI tools, how do you think a researcher should rely on?
Okay.
Does it make it easier to find, related ones? What precautions should one take?
Okay, I was also highlighting that ethical part because
Yes.
when we use AI tools may not necessarily always, get ideas from the credible sources, right? In that case, if you rely on, let's say, AI tools, sometime the AI tools might mislead you. But in order to just get some ideas or creating outlines for your research, we can just try requesting, creating different outlines for literature review, or sometimes you can also request AI tools to list out some of the articles in your area. Could you please suggest us some of the articles in the area of this particular, let's say, teacher professional identity? Then AI tool can list some of the articles and key figures who are doing research in the area. So in that sense, you can use AI tools. But where you want to claim your knowledge, let's say, you cannot take content from AI tools and include that content in your article, because later on you are claiming that you have written that. It's your knowledge. It's the knowledge that you have produced. In that case, you cannot take help of AI, right? But to list articles, to locate some of the sources, to solve some of the problems, you can use AI tools. Or if you use, let's say, connected papers or even Research Rabbit, okay, if you just put some keywords, that will give you, hundreds of articles all of a sudden you can find. But to find those articles, if you go to Google Scholar and search, it may take probably 2 or 3 days. But in connected papers, within one click, you will find list of those articles. In that sense, your work can be quick by using these AI tools. But you should not take content from AI and then include those contents in your articles.
I think you have also answered Somit Sarkar's query. He wants to know, can we use general AI for reference? While paraphrasing, if we take advantage of AI, will it be identified as plagiarism? I think you have answered in your response. So, Pranjana, do we have we have some more time for questions, or should I wind up and sum up? What do you say?
No more questions.
Can we take a few more questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There's one question, Dr. Neupane.
Yes.
What are the major considerations for writing literature, article, content-based analysis, research paper?
Oh, okay. So whatever kind of article you write, whether it is content analysis or, you go to the field and you collect data and then you write empirical articles, you need to do literature review in your area, right? So, and when you do literature review, then some of the areas that you need to focus, or the things that you need to consider, are whether those articles that you have included directly relates with the issue that you have chosen or not, okay? How these literature relates with your research question, whether those research articles are recent or not, okay? These are some of the things that you need to consider. And it should be relevant to your research study, whether you do, content analysis kind of research, or, empirical studies you do by going to the field and collecting data from the field, and you analyze and you write your article. So no matter whatever type of article you write, you need to do literature review. And normally in articles, so we can, use this review from the introduction to the discussion part. So for instance, you need to introduce your topic. You need to define your topic. For that, kind of thematic kind of review, right? But to problematize the issue, these empirical articles can be more relevant to your research, to your paper writing, right? And you can also do policy review. In your rational section, you can include these different review of different policies, right? But in discussion section, to develop theoretical and conceptual framework, you need to review different theories. And in discussion section, you might be connecting those literature that you have included in your introduction, different section of introduction, to discuss with the themes that we have developed. So literature review is essential in every section of your article.
Thank you, Dr. Neupane. Another question, there's another query from Dr. Vinod K. Chopra. Could you please explain what research questions are with example? He wants an example. Can
Okay.
there be hypothesis part in a topic as far as English literature is concerned? He also wants to know this.
Okay, so first of all, what we need to what we need to consider is which paradigm you are remaining while conducting your research, right? Even in ELT, you can conduct research remaining under post-positivistic tradition. For instance, you can do survey research, right? And there you can develop hypothesis, right? But nowadays, in ELT, if you look at the ELT research, the recent trend is on qualitative research. More qualitative research are done in the area of ELT. And in today's session, my focus is on qualitative research, not on the quantitative part. So in qualitative research, instead of this hypothesis, we focus on purpose and research question. And these purpose and questions guides a whole process of research. So yes, we can make hypotheses also, but it depends on what kind of research are you doing, what methodology or in what paradigm you are remaining while conducting your research. That determines whether you make hypothesis or research question. Thank you.
Can we sum up now? Should we sum up or one or two more questions?
Yes, ma'am, we can sum up.
Okay. So thank you so much,
Thank you so much.
Dr. Neupane, for this wonderful session. It was very interesting and engaging and impressive. These are the words, informative. These are the words which have been used in the chat box time and again. To sum up this particular session, Dr. Neupane talked about the importance of literature review in research. Why is there a need? And in this comprehensive and systematic presentation, he talked about the different types of literature reviews. Also, threw light on how to write and frame a literature review, which is very, very important and significant for especially the young researchers, the young research scholars, and systematically gave us the 5 steps of literature review, of preparing the literature review. He touched upon, the presentation touched upon the, research question, key words, key theories, key concepts, and also highlighted how we can, avoid plagiarism by keeping, how we can avoid plagiarism, even if we have to use AI tools. The best part of the presentation was that there were practical tips and examples from Dr. Neupane's, personal examples of the research work, the comprehensive and the extensive research that he has himself carried out. And he also gave simple tips like that, how we can keep a record of the whatever readings we are doing. To keep a track of those readings, we can make a record and keep track of what we have read, so that we can avoid plagiarism, and it will make our work very, very systematic, the research. Because what happens, why we call that research is very tedious, because sometimes what we do not follow a very systematic approach. So thanks to Dr. Neupane for pointing out these simple tips and tricks for the researchers. Thank you so much for this enlightening and informative session.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you so much, dear audience. Thank you. And I have shared my Facebook page. You can get connected through Facebook.
Yes,
That's in the chat box.
Yes, the participants know how to connect to Dr. Neupane, and I will be failing in my duty if I do not, share my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers of this wonderful session on research, the Rahul and the entire organizing team, for approaching me and asking me to conduct this session, in the sense that moderate this session. Thank you so much. Over to you, Pranjana.
Thank you, Professor Mahan. Thank you, Dr. Neupane, for your session on doing literature review in qualitative research. As Professor Mahan has rightly said, it's not just informative, but also incredibly engaging and rich in ideas. The ideas that you shared with us were very useful and will go a long way in honing research skills and conducting quality research. On behalf of ELTAI and all our participants, thank you, Dr. Neupane, for conducting such an interesting and inspiring session. I thank Professor Mahan for moderating the session really well and for offering her expert remarks. I would like to thank you for summarizing the session and handling the questions and answers. Well, behind the scenes, there's a dedicated team that works tirelessly to ensure the success of ELTAI webinars. A special thanks to the organizing team for their hard work and commitment to promoting excellence in English language teaching. And last but not the least, a heartfelt thank you to all our participants from different countries, including Philippines, Nepal, etc., and of course from all corners of India. Your active participation, questions, and insights make these webinars not just informative, but also a platform for rich discussion and global collaboration. A reminder for everyone, please do not forget to fill the webinar feedback form. Certificates will be issued only to school, undergraduate, and postgraduate students, ELTAI members, and foreign nationals. Ladies and gentlemen, before I wrap up, a few more announcements. Please mark your calendars and save the date for our next insightful ELTAI webinar. On Sunday, August 25, 2024, we have an interesting panel discussion planned for you on the topic of promoting inclusivity and equity in ELT strategies aligned with NEP 2020. Kavin, can we have the poster for the webinar, please?
It's on the screen.
It's there.
Is it there? Okay, I can see it now.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's on the screen.
Thank you. Thank you. So registration details and additional information about this exciting webinar are available in the chat box and also on our website. Be sure to visit our website and keep an eye out for updates so that you can secure your spot for this enriching experience. There's another announcement for you for another important event. That is the 18th International and 54th Annual Conference of ELTAI on Exploring Languages and Literatures for Evolving Pedagogical Practices, which will be held at the Royal Global University, Guwahati, Assam, from 23rd to 26th October 2024. As you can see in the poster here. So this conference is jointly hosted by the Royal Global University and Sonapur College, Assam. The details are available on the conference website. The last date to submit an abstract for presentation is 10 September 2024. Please note that this deadline will not be extended further under any circumstances. So please send abstracts before the deadline and book your tickets as early as possible. Remember, your active participation in our events is not only encouraged, but also essential for the success of the events, including this webinar. Let's continue our journey of professional development together. Now, it's time for a group photograph. May I request everyone to turn their videos on and put on a smile on your face. Okay. Great. So, okay. So with this,
Let's wait for a minute. Pranjana ma'am,
Okay,
let's wait for a minute.
Yeah.
Let everybody
Okay.
turn their videos on.
Okay. I can see a few people turning on their videos, but we expect to see more faces on the screen. Please turn on your videos.
Okay, everybody smile, please.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take one more.
Yeah, please. Good
Thank
to
you,
see
everyone.
that face. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So with this, I, Dr. Pranjana Kalita Nath from ELTAI Guwahati chapter, take your leave. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, Bharat sir, for taking out your time and sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you, Shaila ma'am. Thank you, Pranjana ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kavin. And thank you, everyone, for such a wonderful participation. I look forward to meeting you in the next